UFC Fight Night Sean Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez took place last night, and overall, the entirety of the card was okay because the prelims sucked super ass, but the main card picked it back up. There's a ton of good finishes on the main card. Some brawls, and overall, the main card was amazing. The prelims were bad, but luckily, I'm only going over the main card in this video. We're going to start with Zach Reeves versus Mikael Pereira, and we're going to get the bad out of the way first because this was by far the worst fight on the card, on the main card, and by far the most middleweight looking fight I've ever watched. This was a battle between two sloppy knuckleheads that was not entertaining. They threw a lot, but they whiffed a lot, and there was a ton of fouls that were not real. Like Mikael Pereira faked like 3 fouls, and that gave him a ton of time to kind of rest up because his cardio is terrible. And overall, this fight was just god awful. I went with Mikael Pereira, and I said if he loses this fight, I'm never going with him ever again. I'm never going to pick him. And he won the fight by split decision. I am still never going to pick Mikael Pereira to win another fight unless he fights an absolute can. I can't trust his cardio. It's terrible. He's gassing out in the first round after like a minute or two of fighting. He's gassed out completely. And that is a little bit of a middleweight thing, and I'm not bigging up Zachary Reese in any way. But it was just sloppy, not technical whatsoever. Not fun. Like, if it's going to be super sloppy and like dumb, like a Dricus du Plessis or something like that, you'd expect the fight to be at least fun. It wasn't very fun. And Zachary Reese was hyping up the fight, screaming like he was doing stuff, and it was just kind of embarrassing, to be honest. And the other middleweight showing on this card was 10 times better. Actually showed good middleweights with technique trying to fight each other. So this one, it was just awful. Mikael Pereira got it done, though, by split decision. I thought he probably could have gotten it, but it was very close. I probably gave it to Mikael. But overall, just the worst fight on the card by far, and I'm very happy to be done going over that one. Next, Jacob Smith versus Josiah Harrell. In this fight, Jacob Smith was able to make quick work over Josiah Harrell, who took this fight on very short notice. It's a UFC debut against a guy who has some momentum in the UFC, 2 fights, now 3 fights won in the UFC. Josiah, he's a very powerful guy. He was landing shots on the feet. They were trading back and forth, but everything Jacob was landing. I hope I said Jacob was more powerful. I meant Jacob if I said Josiah. But Jacob, 10 times, not 10, he was way more powerful than Josiah on the feet. Everything he landed, big body kicks, big head kicks, landed with a thud. Josiah Harrell was a little bit behind in every step. There's some grappling exchanges. Jacob got the better of him. Josiah goes for a takedown in the first round, gets it, gets reversed, and Jacob lands ground and pound from a crucifix type side control position and just brutalizes Josiah Harrell, gets a crazy late stoppage victory where the ref was like mad at himself that he stopped the fight late, so he like shoved Jacob in the back like 3 times, like it wasn't his fault. Like the ref was completely at fault and decided to just take it out on Jacob Smith because he was embarrassed or something. But Jacob made easy work of Josiah Harrell. It's what I predicted. It was always really going to happen on a debut like that. Josiah is proving to be a pretty decent prospect. He called out Kevin Holland, which is an interesting style matchup considering Jacob's a pretty small, stocky, powerful guy, and Kevin Holland is tall, lengthy striker. It might be a similar situation to like a Joaquin Buckley, but Jacob Smith, I think, is maybe a little bit more technical than Buckley at this point, or at the point when Kevin Holland and Joaquin Buckley first fought, where Holland was able to knock him out. And it's obviously not the same Holland nowadays. So I could really see Jacob Smith giving Holland some problems, obviously, in Holland's career. And he's definitely a prospect to look out for at welterweight. A very powerful guy. I'm excited to see what he does next. This fight really doesn't show much of Jacob because he's fighting a guy who doesn't deserve to be fighting him. If he wasn't doing it on short notice and doing the UFC favor, he wouldn't be fighting Jacob at all. So it's hard to say what this means for him, but it's a great look to just dominate somebody. Like, you don't want to fight a fighter making their debut on a week's notice and go more than 1 round or 2 rounds and have it be close in any way, because that makes you look like dog shit. And Jacob definitely shut that down very quickly. Good for him. Next, Sergey Spivak versus Ante Delija. This fight was a good fight for a heavyweight fight. Like, it was very technical, a technical striking match between these two. Sergey Spivak really impressed me. I went with Ante Delija to win on the feet and to stuff takedowns when he needed to. Sergey Spivak didn't even shoot a takedown until the third round, and in the striking department looked really crisp and technical. Way better than I've previously seen, and that I've thought possible from him. Sergey Spivak, he had a great jab. He was utilizing it well. They both were, but Sergey was throwing it more often, more crisp, landing more, just way more effective. And in the first round, he was able to cut up Anthony Delija badly with just his jab, clearly winning him the first round. Pretty much jabbing, a couple flurries with right hands here and there. Sergey Spivak was getting the better of more of them. Anthony Delija was putting on a pressure, and he was doing good. It wasn't like a complete blowout or anything. But Sergey was definitely a step ahead, and especially in the damage, he was a step ahead. Second round happens. More of the same. Sergey Spivak's landing jabs. They're trading jabs. It's technical, but obviously it's heavyweight, so it's a little bit slow, a little bit sloppy, but it was impressive to me at heavyweight. But Anthony Leisure was able to crack Sergey Spivak towards the end of the round, rock him, had him up against the fence, clinched up with him, which I was freaking out about because why are you clinching with him? You almost have him finished. But they're heavyweights; they get tired easily, especially in big flurries. And in Anthony Delicia's last fight, he had a adrenaline dump, which cost him the fight. So I'm sure he was way more cautious going to this finishing sequence. But it didn't work out, and he didn't end up winning the fight. So it was definitely not the right call in hindsight. But Sergey Spivak was able to survive the round. I gave that round to Ante Delija, obviously. He rocked him. Round three, Sergey Spivak starts to grapple. He starts to utilize his jab at the very beginning. Then he gets straight into grappling. He gets down Ante Delija. He holds him down for a second. He holds him against the cage for a while. Lands some damaging blows in that sequence. That lasted the majority of the round. And then on the feet, they were trading. Ante Delija had his moments, but Sergey Spivak had just done a little bit. He had done a little bit more. He had done just enough in the grappling and in the damage to swing in favor of him because the rest of the round was close, striking match between the two. Sergey Spivak just did a little bit more, and that was the story of this fight, bar round two. And he was able to get it done and get a decision, which I did not expect at all. I thought Ante Delija was a step above heavyweights that like Sergey Spivak has had really close fights with, but I think Sergey's improving. He's improving in the striking. He's looking pretty good. He didn't look like a fat idiot or anything out there. His cardio held up. I was impressed with Sergey Spivak considering the rest of his career has been super up and down. But yeah, Spivak gets it done. Sorry for Delija. He's kind of old. He's weathered. He has a bunch of scar tissue. We'll see what he does with the rest of his career. He'll beat the heavyweight cans of the UFC, but as for the top contenders, lost to Waldo Cortez and then Sergey Spivak, which are the like mid heavyweights of the division. It's not a good look for the trajectory of his career. So yeah, Sergey Spivak gets it done, and I was very impressed and didn't expect that. So yeah, good for him. Next, Dan Ige versus Miguel Costa. I am so happy about this. I went Miguel Costa, and on paper, you'd pick Dan Ige, wouldn't you? Before this fight, a lot of people were. It made a lot of sense. Dan Ige has made a bunch of really like tough battles with really good lengthy fighters like Miguel Costa. He's been powerful and game to fight and be in a war in many of his fights. But his last performance against Patricio Pitbull was not a good one. And I called it out, and it's why I picked Miguel Costa to win by rangy kicks. The Pitbull performance, he did not do enough, and he had every opportunity to do enough, and he wouldn't. And I knew going into this fight that I just hated that look in that fight against Pitbull for Dan Ige. Hated it, and I couldn't get over it going in there against Miguel Costa, who weaponizes cardio and damaging blows and is not afraid to be in a war himself. Miguel Costa dominated this fight. Dan Ige came out there with a super grappling heavy game plan, which did not work at all. Miguel Costa was able to scramble every takedown. He was able to get out of every cage control moment. He was way better than Dan Ige, way stronger, way more technical. Dan Ige kind of got bitched completely in this fight. When it came to the striking, Miguel Costa is a kick god. He is the best kicks I've seen in a while, just in pure effectiveness. He's utilizing his front kick to the face, to the body. His body kicks and head kicks, he was just throwing like a ton of them. He was throwing a ton of head kicks, a ton of front kicks to the body, a ton of front kicks to the face, just every kick you can think of. And then he eventually got a spinning back kick knockout to the face. Not a wheel kick, but a spinning back kick knockout to the face of Dan Ige. The stoppage was a little bit early. There's a cop car going by my house. Not for me, though. Okay. Miguel Costa. It was a little bit early. The stoppage was a little bit early, I will say. But Danny Gay looked like he was dead on his facial expression, and he was kind of shelling out, but it was like 5 seconds till the end of the round, and it's not like Mick was just landing crazy bombs after the spinning back kick. He was like punching the guard really light. You could have kept it going, and I bet you it would have went to the next round. But I also understand the stoppage. It wasn't a good look. Danny Gay looked like he got hit with a bat. And to be honest, this kick might have been that powerful. It was a perfect kick right to his jaw, spinning back kick. It was amazing. And Mikos Alcácer making a fucking name for himself in terms of his win streak. I think that's six fight win streak, two back-to-back highlight reel KOs. Super fun fighter. He has his backstory, which is incredibly interesting, with his disease and his nickname being the Dalmatian, and that he found the cure for, you know what I'm saying. He's a very interesting character, and he's a very fun fighter to watch. And he dominated this fight against Danny Gay. Danny Gay didn't have anything for him. On the rangy striking department, Mikuzel was 10 times better. And it showed. And I'm so glad I picked Costa. And I just don't trust Danny Gay after that Pitbull performance. And I'm not going to trust him going forward after this, especially. And I like Danny Gay. He's pretty fun. He used to be a battle-hungry freak. But as of nowadays, I'm not confident with him. And Mikuzel Costa is going to go on a run, I think. He's pretty good. Featherweight's tough. But if he can weaponize his cardio and keep his chin sound, he will be a problem. And how fucking good is Steve Garcia to put this guy out? Steve Garcia is another fighter in the same realm as Miguel Costa, where he is a just cardio beast, willing to damage his opponent and take shots to give him. I love Steve Garcia's fighting style, and if he's the only person to really dominate Miguel Costa in the UFC, then I'm excited for both of those fighters going forward. But yeah, good fight. Very happy about that. Next, Jeff Neal versus Uras Medic. So I can make this one very quick because it was a very quick fight. I picked Jeff Neal to win. And in hindsight, I'm a really big idiot, but it wasn't a bad pick, I would say. I mean, in hindsight it was, but it wasn't a bad pick. Jeff Neal got shit on terribly by Uras Medic. Uras, they traded a little bit on the feet at the very start of the round. It was clear that Uras was trying to land kicks and trying to like spam hooks against Jeff Neal, but Jeff Neal really couldn't get anything going. He couldn't land shots at all for as long as it lasted, which wasn't very long. Uras Medic landed a clean hook on Jeff Neal's chin, which had him stumble backwards and go, "Oh fuck, that really hurt." And he had gotten chinned by Carlos Prates in his last fight, and I trusted that maybe just Carlos is just way better than everybody, and his chin isn't that bad because Jeff Neal's made tricky fights out of great opponents like Shafkat and Ian Gary couldn't put him away. Shafkat couldn't put him away on the feet. Protest spinning fucking elbows him in the face perfectly. And I just thought his chin would be able to hold up. But Uras Medic, of all people, who's had a very hit or miss career, and he's looked bad in the past, completely obliterated Jeff Neal. Landed that right hook, stumbled him back, came forward, started landing shots. They started trading back and forth. Jeff Neal tried to push back a little bit. And then he landed a right hook right over the top of the guard, right overhand, right on his temple, and put him out completely cold, snotted everywhere. And Uras Medic was able to obliterate Jeff Neal in the very first round in spectacular fashion. Incredible KO. Really puts him on the map. And it's weird because Uras Medic wasn't even in the conversation to me as like a ranked opponent. Really. He's always been like a crisp, clean fighter who has potential, but now he just beat Jeff Neal, which is not like that's a good win to have on your record. And he beat him in the first round by devastating highlight reel knockout. And then he did his ninja moves in the corner and started screaming. And he called out Leon Edwards. And that is the best call out. If I'm a fucking welterweight coming off of a win in the. If I'm a welterweight coming off of a win at all in the rankings, I'm calling out Leon Edwards 10 times out of 10 times. Because Leon Edwards, I've said this for forever. And now it's just perfectly clear. He is out. He's done. He was never that good. If it wasn't for Headshot Dead, he'd just be just as boring as Bilal. And now his chin is cooked. And he's being dominated more than ever. And he doesn't have the mental fortitude as a fighter to come back in a way that's at all like significant, I think. I think Leon Edwards is just going to go down in trajectory. Him versus Ross is obviously close. Leon was a former champ, but in terms of champions, to me, Leon Edwards is he's one of the worst champions in UFC history. And I know he beat Usman, and I know he beat him in the third fight, and he beat him by decision, so it's more impressive that way. But there's a new realm of welterweights coming up, and I think even right outside the rankings where Uras was fighting these people, I think it's different to these welterweights out the rankings. I've been saying that for forever. The Protest, Michael Morales, Ian Gary, these guys coming up are 10 times better. I keep saying 10 times better. Forgive my exaggerations, but they're way better than these welterweights of old. And Uras Medic, I'd pick to be Leon Edwards at this point in his career, which is just surprising because I never thought Uras Medic would be in this position at this point. But yeah, very good fight. Good for him. Next, Sean Strickland versus Anthony Hernandez, the main event. I went with Sean Strickland to win this fight, and I was dead on the money on this fight, and I'm very happy about that. Anthony Hernandez has not fought the competition to be a negative 270 favorite against Sean Strickland, whose only losses are to championship level fighters with decorated resumes. Anthony Hernandez's best win was Brennan Allen. Who's the other one he beat? What the fuck? He beat Brennan Allen. Is that his best win? Is Hernandez's best win fucking Brennan Allen? I might be missing someone. Either way, it doesn't really matter. He hasn't proved himself. He's proved himself to be good at cardio. He's proved to be a good wrestler, but he's fighting opponents that Sean Strickland would obliterate and has in the past. Sean Strickland completely dominated and finished Brendan Allen. Anthony Hernandez has not proved himself, and I knew Sean Strickland was going to be a level ahead. Not to toot my own horn too much, Sean Strickland he had his game plan. He does the same thing in every fight. It's boring at times, but sometimes he gets finishes like in this fight. And he stayed behind his jab and his teep, and especially his jab was active all night and landing effectively all night. Obviously, he had his teep as well, landing the body of Hernandez, which proved to represent his nickname well, because Fluffy is exactly what he is. He does not have the stomach to take body shots in the UFC against top-level opponents. He's always been weak to the body. We knew that going in, and Sean Strickland was able to utilize that, especially in the finishing sequence. In the first two rounds, Hernandez had a good pressure. He had a good pressure where he would utilize flurries as he would come forward or shoot a takedown and not get it. It wasn't a blowout in the first two rounds by any means, but I think Strickland was a little bit ahead. He was circling out really well, landing his jab every single time, and this goes for all opponents that fight Strickland. You throw on Strickland, you catch him like every 4 punches with a pretty decent shot, but the most of the time you're whiffing, and you're whiffing with power shots, and you're coming forward, you're trying to get past his weird, quirky fucking way of fighting, and you're whiffing, and you're getting tired, and you're getting jabbed in the fucking nose and teeped in the body, and you're just starting to get weathered as time goes on. You're getting frustrated because it's hard to hit this guy, and he'll duck and throw the worst overhand you've ever seen in your life, but it'll hit you, and you're just getting pissed, and tired, and busted up. And Sean Strickland's standing there the same. He looked in round one, in round three, and you're like, God damn it. And then you get kneed in the gut, like Anthony Hernandez did, and it hurt him really bad. He was backing up, holding his gut. Body shot is what did it, and that was very predictable, I think. Sean Strickland goes up against the cage, round three, tees off after the knee to the body, and lands a bunch of shovel uppercuts while holding his head down and crazy hooks and shots to the body and everything, and was able to ground and pound TKO Anthony Hernandez. Not an early stoppage, perfect stoppage, and Sean Strickland gets it done in the third round by TKO. A step ahead of these middleweights, and it's just the case. Sean Strickland's always been good. He beat Adesanya on a week's notice. He beat Imavov on a week's notice. He's a step above these guys. And Hernandez is in the level of middleweight, but you're not going to pick him 100% against a Brendan Allen at the time. Reiner de Ritter, we now know is fucking just has the worst cardio ever and is kind of a baby when it comes to fighting in general. I'd probably pick Reiner de Ritter to beat Anthony Hernandez with his knees, and I thought that before this fight. But yeah, Strickland proved to be a level ahead of Anthony Hernandez. And Sean Strickland versus Hamzat Chimaev is an intriguing fight to me. Imavov obviously is right there, but Strickland and Hamzat Chimaev have the bad blood. That would make a great promo. It'd make a great press conference and a good, intriguing fight. Sean Strickland's not a clumsy, like, he has technical ability, superior, far superior in the grappling than Dricus Du Plessis. He was able to stuff every takedown Anthony had for him, and he had a few. He had like 5 or 6 takedown attempts. People saying that Anthony was trying to make it fun for the fans or didn't want to grapple, you're crazy. He tried to grapple, it didn't work. You can't just shoot 100 takedowns like Merab if a takedown doesn't work. You have to renegotiate your game plan with yourself. And he wasn't able to get down Sean Strickland or attempt any more than he did because it wasn't working. So that excuse is stupid. Stop giving credit to grapplers for staying on the feet when they can't get a takedown and calling them a man of the people. It's stupid. Stop doing that. Sean Strickland has the technical ability in the grappling to make it intriguing against Hamzat Chimaev, I think. In the cardio department, he's way better than Hamzat. In the striking, it could get crazy, but obviously Sean's more technical and probably be awkward for Hamzat. At this point, I'd probably go Strickland to beat Hamzat. And I know that might be a hot take, but I think the person who's going to beat Hamzat has to have a fundamentally like sound style and be very well rounded. And I think Sean Strickland's that guy. I think he could work his body, work his jab. I think he could do it. And that's a more fun matchup to me than Imavov. Because to be honest, I think Hamzat probably just holds down Imavov. And the bad blood is fun. It makes the fight way more fun to watch. So yeah, those are my thoughts about this fight card. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think of anything I could improve upon. And I will see you soon.